What's good, everyone? Today is September 13th, 2024. Happy Friday night to everybody. Thanks for tuning in, particularly if you're checking it out live tonight. Kind of a last-minute thing as usual. I don't usually do super streams at night. But I had some interesting information here for today, and I just want to make sure I get this out before the weekend. And as usual, we'll focus on the world of sports, synchronicity, numerology, and just improbable coincidences that we can continue to see play out in media, politics, and everywhere else. So today, we're going to focus on a news story out of Miami, Florida last night, where the NFL kicked off Week 2 of its 105th season. And in that game, Tua Tagovailoa, the quarterback for the Miami Dolphins, got injured on a play where he was tackled by Hamlin. And this immediately stuck out to me because in previous years, I've done videos on injuries suffered by both those players. And both of those injuries were on primetime games, in high-profile games, where virtually the entire country saw them happen. And once again, Tua Tagovailoa had a scary-looking concussion where his fingers contorted, just like they did back in September of 2022. And after I'm done with this video, I'll put a link down in the description to my previous videos on these players. You can search them on my channel for sure as well. But when investigating the numerology of that story, what I realized is there's a lot of numbers that connect these two athletes, Tua Tagovailoa and Hamlin, to the Formula One race taking place this weekend in Azerbaijan, in the capital city of Baku. Now, with Formula One, we'll talk about Lando Norris, because Lando Norris got his first ever Formula One victory in the city of Miami, Florida, where last night's game occurred. And just during the week, we learned about the death of famous Star Wars actor James Earl Jones. And James Earl Jones, one of the few African-American cast members in the original trilogy, along with Billy D. Williams, who played Lando in Star Wars. So if you didn't see the injury, it did look pretty bad. I mean, it didn't look like he would get injured at first, but when you look at the reverse angle, you definitely see a lot of impact with the head. And a lot of people are saying that Tua should probably retire from football at this point. They say he's had 3 concussions, at least maybe 4 actually, which is strange because back in the 90s, I mean, you couldn't even keep up with the number of concussions that Steve Young and Brett Favre would have, for instance. But, you know, rightfully so. I mean, anyone playing football who retires is A-okay in my book, because you are putting your body through a lot playing this game for our entertainment. But a hell of an entertaining sport it is, which is why it's so huge in America. So we're going to talk about Tua Tagovailoa and this number 1 on his jersey. Now, in my last super stream, number 83, which is also linked below in the description, we talked about the number 1 in the NFL because a rookie for the New York Giants was being awarded the number 1 NFL jersey. And this was the first time in history that a number was being unretired, as a man named Ray Flaherty had previously retired this very number for the Giants. And in my video, I theorized, could this be a riddle for the sport with the number 1 in it, Formula One? And the major connection with F1 there was that Malik Neighbors, the man who will now be wearing the number 1 jersey for the Giants, was 7,707 days old for the Italian Grand Prix. And of course, the 777s always stand out, right? But this is a number that connects to both Charles Leclerc and Kimi Antonelli, who made his debut for that very race. because their names sum to 343 in what I call Latin Gematria, which is 7 times 7 times 7. As we go, we'll be talking a lot about Gematria. This Latin or Agrippa's key cipher is what I think is the most significant. Typically, this study is based in the alphabetic order, and the base methods are what we will be reviewing for the large majority of today's video. Now, I made this post and did this video when Leclerc was 15-1 to win, and sure enough, he came out of 4th place to take the victory for Ferrari at their home race in Monza. And after looking at all these numbers that connected, I noticed, wow, Tua Tagovailoa has that number 1 as well. So it seems like there may be a connection. And that's what we'll be examining today. And you know, it's funny, I put the number 13 on the thumbnail without even really thinking about it. Today, of course, Friday the 13th. So happy Friday the 13th to everybody checking out tonight. This might not be my greatest video ever because I kind of had to rush what I'm doing here today. But if you do like deep dives and speculative numerology, then you will certainly feel right at home today. So I believe that when it comes to the NFL, which has its roots here in the United States in the Western Hemisphere, and the global sport of Formula One, which is actually owned by an American company now, but has its roots in Europe, are actually all part of the big same frickin' tree. That's what we're looking at. Now, you guys may watch YouTube channels that have a lot of AI art that they don't spend a lot of time on, but this is the quality of visuals you're going to get here, all right? And just to make all of my viewers happy, if this is how you see the Earth, I guess this is what the graphic would look like as well, all right? So with all that, let's start digging a little bit into the numbers and see what's so fascinating about all of this. Now, we start with the race back in Miami on May 5th, earlier this year, and this was Lando Norris's first ever Grand Prix victory in Formula One. And it just so happens that 2 days before that, Mark Hamill, who played Luke Skywalker in the original trilogy, visited the White House, the home of the president. And of course, the name Lando, a character from the film Star Wars, Lando Calrissian. And we see how the number 145 connects Lando to Joe Biden and his lunar age for that race. So Lando Norris gets a lucky safety car and rides it to victory. And just before that race, wouldn't you know that McLaren, which is Piastri and Norris's team, they had former President Donald Trump in their garage. So while Luke Skywalker is visiting the president, the former president is visiting McLaren. And then this McLaren driver gets his first ever win. And of course, the name Zach Brown, McLaren's CEO, has the same 110 Gematria as president and Miami, Florida. The connection in numbers between Lando Norris and Lando Calrissian run very, very deep. The actor who played Lando Calrissian, Billy D. Williams, and let's consider the last name Williams in light of the fact that this is Formula One, where Williams is one of 10 teams on the grid. The actor who played Lando, whose name has ordinal gematria of 46, was born on April 6th, or 4/6, on the calendar. Now, in most parts of the world, that would be written as 6/4. And exactly 64 years after Billy D. Williams was born, Lando Norris's McLaren teammate, Oscar Piastri, was born. Every team in Formula One just has 2 drivers, and this is his only teammate, Oscar Piastri. These 2 McLaren drivers were born 73 weeks apart exactly. This is the reduction value of the name Billy D. Williams, 73. This also syncs up with this weekend's race in Baku 73. Now, Baku, the capital city of Azerbaijan, it's the Azerbaijan Grand Prix that we're looking at this weekend. Formula One also with this 87 value like Azerbaijan, and actor Billy D. Williams, who played Lando, is currently 87 years old. And we just had the death of James Earl Jones, whose name also equals 87. James Earl Jones was born under Brown Lunation number 99 on the anniversary of the implementation of the Brown Lunation number system. And of course, the moon with that 99 Gematria. And then James Earl Jones happened to die on September 9th, just 4 days after I connected James Earl Jones to the number 99 in my video on the Georgia school shooting. Notice how Baku has double Gematria of 99. And the race is called the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, which also gives us this 99. Now, when you look at the factors of 99, you get 3 squared, which is 9 times 11. So we'll talk about how this connects to the 911 code, as we do in, it's got to be a majority of my videos. We're talking about 119, 911, and all these connections. And this is a number that's significant to Star Wars, which sums to 119 in the alphabetic order. And measuring from George Lucas's birthday to the death of James Earl Jones was a span of 119 days. Now, this weekend's race on September 15th falls 119 days after the anniversary of the release of Star Wars Episode 1, which was the revival of the Star Wars trilogy, the first new Star Wars film in 16 years. To this day, the only film I ever stood outside in line for as a young 14-year-old Star Wars freak. Anyway, this movie was released in the year 1999. Now, 1999 is the year that Star Wars name Lando Norris was born. In fact, Lando Norris was born, 5 months and 25 days after the release of that film. And 525 is a number connected to the original Star Wars films. Those movies came out on May 25th, 525. Or at least 2 of the 3 did. So back to the number 99. The number 13 sums to 99 in the alphabetic order. Today, Friday the 13th. But with this collision in Miami, it was number 1 smashing into number 3. You'll see it right here. Tagovailoa, number 1. Damar Hamlin, number 3. So we'll talk about the number 13. The Miami Dolphins currently have their 13th head coach in the team's history, and his name is Mike McDaniel, whose name sums to 99, and both his names start with the 13th letter. In fact, Daniel even has that 99 in standard. Mike McDaniel. There's, of course, a lot more with him. Now, we'll also glance at the star running back for this game. In the first half, 3 touchdowns were scored by a player named James Cook, who wears number 4 for the Buffalo Bills. I'll have to remember to look at that. Now, James Cook, if you check out his age for this game, he was also born in 1999. And he was 9,119 days old. His birthday was 1 month and 19 days before Lando Norris's. And the name Norris syncs to 118, or 119, I should say. Norris 119. Lando Norris, also with the same digits. And Lando Norris recently won his 119th race. The Grand Prix in Zandvoort, the Netherlands. That was his 119th race. So, check this out. This numerical connection right here is, to me, what really cements a link between what's going on in Azerbaijan and the event last night in the NFL. The official name of the country is the Republic of Azerbaijan, which has matching 1544 gematria with actor Billy D. Williams, who played Lando. Lando Norris, meanwhile, equals 544. Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. 544. And don't forget, earlier this year, The Phantom Menace was re-released. And it was re-released in theaters the same exact day that Mark Hamill visited the White House. Of course, I'm sure, that was some kind of promotional stunt, but sports really show you how all of this comes together so well. A little bit too well, I would even say. So I was digging into the numbers over here for the NFL, and look what I came across. When you add these two players' names, Damar Hamlin, Tua Tagovailoa, it sums to 1544. And Tua got knocked out while playing for the Dolphins. And the Dolphins equals 544. When you write out Azerbaijan, you get matching gematria with Damar Hamlin's full name, Tua's common name, and the word concussion. And this extends further. In standard, Azerbaijan is 969. Damar Hamlin was 9,669 days old when he hurt Tua Tagovailoa. And Damar Hamlin's full name equals 669. His last name, 666. Grand Prix equals 666, and also syncs up with the word concussion. And there's more to unpack there, but this 1544 also stood out. But here's another big 4-digit number that I have to point out before I go any further. When Damar Hamlin was injured and the game got canceled, he had that heart issue, right? He went into cardiac arrest on the field. On that date, Tua Tagovailoa was 9,073 days old. And that's Lando Norris's exact age for this Sunday's race. This is an important number to 9/11 because the World Trade Center opened in 1973 and was then destroyed during Brownlow Nation 973. When you write out 973, it equals 1973. So that blew my mind. Back to Lando Norris. I know we're juggling posts here, but hey, it's a super stream. It's late on a Friday night. What the hell? Why not? Now, this will be Grand Prix 1118. This is a number that has matching gematria with Ilham Aliyev, who is the president/dictator, I guess you could say, of Azerbaijan. 1203 Latin. Both share the same gematria. And this president was born on a date with 116 numerology, which is an upside-down 9/11. And if you run his age for the race in his country, he's 22,911 days old. And again, this race 119 days after the anniversary of the new Star Wars film, which is 119. It's pretty incredible how all of this comes together, too, because McLaren CEO Zach Brown, for instance, look at his age for 9/11, 10901, syncing up with the digits in Lando Norris. When Star Wars came out in 99, Zach Brown was 10,056 days old. Well, 9/11 is the 156th prime number. Notice how these numbers are found in Billy D. Williams' full name, the actor who plays Lando, who has this really kick-ass name, William December Williams Jr. It's just so easy to remember. But his name sums to 116 and 1560. His stage name, Billy D. Williams, another 1560. And James Earl Jones died 156 days after Billy D. Williams' birthday. Plane, Twin Towers, New York, New York, all summing to 156 as well. And don't forget the special edition of composite numbers to the Gematrinator recently. Thanks for those suggestions. I think it's definitely worth it because not only is 9/11 the 156th prime number, but 156 is the 119th composite number, which is essentially the opposite of a prime number. But this also cracks open a major 666 riddle with Lando Norris to Star Wars. Now check this out. In the alphabetic order, both 666 and 666 equals 156. In the year 1999, which of course has an upside-down 666 in it, Star Wars creator George Lucas was 660 months and 6 days old. When Lando Norris was born, George Lucas was exactly 666 months old. Lando was born 669 days before the September 11th attacks. The Phantom Menace in Sumerian Gematria, with seemingly relevant numbers. Our trusty Sumerian method, multiplying the alphabetic order by 6, both forwards and backwards. A lot of people think the number of the beast is 616, and the president of Azerbaijan, born 919 weeks after George Lucas, which is the upside-down 616. We see this number occasionally. No big deal. Now, before you go dumping all your money on Lando Norris this weekend, there seems to be a serious double riddle at play. And again, I'm not a sports betting channel. I happen to have a ton of success with F1 so far this year, but I can't just keep winning forever. That's just not possible. So here's an example of how there's staggering riddles in multiple ways. And while I did, I don't usually have a lot of money in sports. I'm not big on betting. I don't like promoting it. But, I hit 3 F1 races in a row. So I was like, okay, I got a little to play with. What I did here is I originally bet on Lando, who was plus 120. So not very good odds. Those odds have since decreased, so you can now get plus almost 200 because he had a really bad practice today. But then I hedged that bet with Charles Leclerc because his numerical connections are freakish to this race. Now check this out. We're talking about Billy D. Williams, Lando Calrissian, right? The root of this whole riddle with Lando Norris. And if you add his names, you get 323 ordinal. Well, on the date of this race, Charles Leclerc will be a span of exactly 323 months old. And the city of Baku sums to 323. Now, the president of Azerbaijan is the 4th president in the history of the nation. And this is why earlier I wanted to mention James Cook, the running back, because he was the star of the game, and he wears number 4. And driver Lando Norris, he drives the number 4 car. And 4 squared is 16, and that's Charles Leclerc's number. And Lando Norris, the number 4 car, his 2 wins were 16 weeks apart. So we'll see how this connects, like I said, in a staggeringly strong way to Barack Obama, who was the 44th president of the United States. James Cook, by the way, the running back who wears number 4, he went to Georgia. And Georgia has the 44 in reduction. And when Tua Tagovailoa got hurt, this play was a 4th and 4. I don't know if anybody noticed that. A 4th down and 4 yards to go when he barreled into Hamlin. So back to this 3-2-3. I got a little sidetracked there. But we saw this with Lando Calrissian, Leclerc's age matching Baku. Notice how Commander-in-Chief equals 323. And former Commander-in-Chief Barack Hussein Obama has double Gematria of 323 with both capital letters and in reverse. This race falls 323 days before Barack Obama's next birthday. And when you look at the date numerology for the race, you see a 32 and a 23. Well, Barack Obama was born 13,223 days before Charles Leclerc. So you get the 32 and the 23. And if you don't include the end date, Leclerc will be 322 months and 30 days old for this race. 322, 223. This is a wild alignment right here. I don't come across something this powerful in very many decodes. But consider this, right? The 322. The 223. Skull and bones. Ah! You've heard it a million times on this channel. Yale University, home to the 322 Society, turning 322 years old in 2023. Skull and crossbones, 223. Well, if you measure from that anniversary to the date of the race, you get 343 days. And that's the Latin Gematria of Charles Leclerc, 343. But there's more Obama connections. The race falls on a date with primary numerology of 68, and that matches Barack Obama in ordinal. In reduction, Barack Obama sums to 32 like Obama in ordinal. And not only will Charles Leclerc be 9,832 days old, but he'll also be 32 days before his birthday. And again, the date has 32 numerology. So what's this all about? If it's not scripted for Leclerc, right? And this is always what I say in sports, is that often you come across double riddles. It becomes really difficult to find a pattern in a stronger pattern, I should say. And often we look at the overall win totals to try and get closer. But nothing really staggering stands out there either. I guess there are a few things that we'll come across in my next post here. In fact, let's just jump right there and talk about what's going on in Miami. So again, Mike McDaniel, whose name matches 13, is the 13th head coach in the history of the Dolphins. And the Dolphins gives us this 13 in the alphabetic order. And they got this quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa, who has the 103. And Tua used to wear number 13 when he played his college ball at Alabama. And Alabama also with the 13. So that's always been the big number. And now 1 smashing into 3. So if you go back in time to 2022 and Tua's last major concussion during a primetime NFL game, I did a lot of work on this, and what I focused on in that post was the number 34, or particularly 304. So this game ended NFL's Week 3 and began NFL's Week 4. And Tagovailoa was injured by a player named Josh Tupou, and when you add their names together, you get a 304. The number 304 equals 304, by the way. And Tua was born on the date leaving 304 days in the year, which was 304 days after Josh Tupou's birthday. And then Josh was 340 months old. And Tua got hurt at exactly 304 lunar phases old. And we have this Brown lunation number, which is credited to an astronomer named Ernest Brown. And Ernest Brown, his name equals 304. And Tua got hurt 304 days after Ernest Brown's birthday. Now, the injury occurred on the Browns logo, right there on the middle of the field there. Not the Browns, the Bengals. Sorry, those colors confuse me. That's the Bengals field in Cincinnati, Ohio. And the Bengals were founded by a man named Paul Brown, right? You got the Brown lunation number. So I talked about the number 304 like crazy. Well, then when Damar Hamlin got hurt on January 2nd the following year, it was 3 months and 4 days later. And on that date, Tua Tagovailoa was exactly 1,296 weeks old. And last night, for the second time in less than 2 years, he gets hurt during a Thursday night football game. And Thursday night football equals 1,296. Also notice how Thursday night football equals 95. Well, when you add their names together, it also sums to 95. And Tua's major concussion in 2022 was 95 days before Damar Hamlin's injury. So the Miami Dolphins are a football team in the NFL that were founded in the year 65. And that's appropriate, because in Gematria, both Miami, Florida, and Florida sum to 65. Last night's game in Miami fell on a date with 65 numerology. Now, if you add 65 to itself, you get a sum of 130. F1 driver Lando Norris drives for McLaren, which sums to 130 in this special capital letter cipher. And of course, McLaren with that extra capital letter. So here with the alphabetic order, capital then small, you get the 130 with McLaren. And again, this number synced to Tagovailoa and the Dolphins. Last night's game was 130 days after Lando Norris won the Miami Grand Prix in the same city. So, by virtue of this gematria, Tagovailoa and the Dolphins, 103, 130, you also get a 1,002. And this is the next big number with this injury. Because, like how last time it was the end of week 3 going into week 4, now it's the end of week 1 going into week 2 of the NFL. And Damar Hamlin, when he was injured, it was on the date 102, which can also be written as 201. Well, Tua Tagovailoa's concussions, his name even sounds like the number 2, were separated by exactly 102 weeks. And his second injury was 20 months and 10 days after Damar Hamlin's cardiac arrest. This weekend will be Lando Norris's 121st Grand Prix, and he's looking for his third win in his number 4 car. And this is actually interesting because when you look at how many days he was born after his CEO, you got the 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know, maybe I'm going off the deep end here, but looking back at this connection between Lando Norris and Miami, and again, this just exhibits the wild depths. I run out of adjectives doing these videos. I'm going to need a list next time so I don't trip over myself. It's literally insane. So the name Norris in Latin Gematria equals 349, and he was born 34 years and 90 days after the Miami Dolphins were founded. This is the 70th prime number, and in reduction, Miami Dolphins equals 70. Well, on the date of last night's game, Lando's age ended in the number 70. He was 9,070 days old. 97 is the ordinal value of dolphins. And think about how Lando gets his name from Star Wars, which equals 97. Dolphins and Norris also share that special 119. Now, on Sunday, for the Azerbaijan Grand Prix, is Tua going to announce his retirement or something? Or is this perhaps connected to the retirement of one of these drivers from this race? Now, that's yet to be seen. But Sunday will be a span of 198 days after Tagovailoa's birthday. 198 is the gematria of both Azerbaijan Grand Prix and Azerbaijan. 198, 1098. In fact, the official name of the race, I guess you could say, Formula One Azerbaijan Grand Prix with another 198. Lando Norris is going for career win number 3. The number 3 equals 198. Also interesting is that third equals 59. Looking for his third win. Tagovailoa with the 59. Sunday's race falls 59 days before Lando Norris's birthday. So could that be a clue? Well, this football game ended with a score of 31-10. That syncs up with the gematria of McLaren in Satanic 311. Sunday's race will also be 718 days after Tua's first concussion. This is the Latin gematria of Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Again, am I losing it here? But this movie also has matching gematria with both Tagovailoa and Hamlin's full names, 373 and 405. So again, these things match up deeper than any of us will ever truly understand. I'm just here exploring the caves. I'm the canary in the coal mine, willing to put my insanity on the line for the sake of finding out what's relevant. Also, regarding this skull and bones code that we saw earlier with the number 322, there's a little bit more with that because if you don't include the end date, this race will be the last day that Charles Leclerc is still 322 months old. Right? 323 with the end date. Well, Charles was born 32 years and 2 months after the Dolphins were founded. The two football players who gave Tua Tagovailoa his concussions, T. Higgins of the Bengals and now Damar Hamlin of the Bills, Notice how they were born 322 days apart. And this, I think, might be important to the Grand Prix because normally the 322nd day of the year is 11/18. And this will be the 1118th Grand Prix in the history of F1. Let me just make sure I'm punching in the right numbers here. Here we go. 1118 right there. So therein lies the strong 322 connection. This is a link I've talked about probably a dozen times over the years that's come up in various decodes. Also, look at how these numbers with Azerbaijan link up with Hamlin's age and his Gematria. So when Damar Hamlin was injured on Monday Night Football, forcing the cancellation of the game, he was exactly 1,293 weeks old. And this is something I mentioned in my video because the man who injured him, his full name equals 1293 in the Fibonacci cipher. Damar Hamlin, meanwhile, his full name sums to these same four digits, 1239. Damar Hamlin, Tua Tagovailoa, 239 in ordinal. Last night was 239 days after T. Higgins' birthday. And look at how Azerbaijan sums to 1239. Baku, Azerbaijan even equals 1292. So pretty close one there. Tua Tagovailoa has primary birth numerology of 122, matching Baku, Azerbaijan in ordinal. In reverse, this city sums to 256. And Lando was born 256 days after Tua's birthday. Last night's game on Thursday Night Football was the 256th day of a leap year. Damar Hamlin also with matching 94 Gematria with this city. Talked a little bit about how there's a connection with Barack Obama to this race. His age for Damar Hamlin's injury shows the 324. That's Damar Hamlin's birthday, March 24th. But what really stood out is this 336. Because not only was Tagovailoa born 13,360 days after Barack Obama, but Obama also was 22,336 days old for his first major concussion. And this is found in the Gematria of Damar Hamlin. Meanwhile, Damar Hamlin was born 13,381 days after Barack Obama and was 1,381 weeks old for this week's events. And this 1381 is the 221st prime number, connecting to Barack Obama, connecting to Lando, connecting to Darth Vader, who James Earl Jones played the voice of in Star Wars. So yeah, we kind of fell down the well this video, didn't we? This rabbit hole's deep. These two players, Hamlin and Tagovailoa, also share 343 Gematria, syncing up with Charles Leclerc. So it just blew me away how strong the links are with both of these drivers. I almost wonder if they're going to crash into each other. Now that would be a hell of a prediction, but time will only tell. I won't be able to watch the race live. I'll have to wait. All right, let's see what else is worth mentioning here. If you check out my blog, I talk a little bit about my record with Formula One. And, I kind of set out this year, when the year started, to really start decoding the sport, because when they came to Las Vegas last year, I found myself a little bit fascinated with the nature of the racing, the politics of the sport, and also the scale of what's going on in Formula One. this is really probably the only truly global sport. I suppose they don't have races in Africa yet, but I think those are on the horizon. And it's a sport that translates to everyone. It's, getting from point A to point B is really the original human sport, even predating something like soccer or football, as my compatriots across the pond might say. And Formula One, the fastest cars on Earth. Maybe not on every track necessarily, but certainly the quickest around most of the corners on these tracks. And I tried one bet in Formula One. I took Lewis Hamilton at about 15-1 earlier this year because he had this extreme skull and bones riddle that was playing out for him. And I was like, hey, maybe he's finally going to win after 3 years almost of not winning. Well, instead, that same week, we got this news story saying that his team was trying to sabotage his car and that they were trying to kill him. And I was like, really? Right after a major skull and bones riddle that I pointed out a week before this news story. So then I waited a couple weeks and I finally put a little bit down again. And yeah, for me to win the last 3 races, that's 432-1 if you look at the odds when I took the bets. So again, it can't go on forever, right? I mean, who knows? Again, if you believe sports are somehow rigged by the numbers for the purpose of sports betting, then there's sort of a paradox there because you're also agreeing that they can also change the outcomes if the money's not there for it. So, again, I'm not the biggest guy on sports betting, but hey, the patterns are fascinating. I can never get tired of seeing what manifests from week to week and how it connects to everything else that's going on in the greater consciousness. It's fascinating stuff. So, I mean, the run I'm on, I would never even believe that it would be this good already just after starting to dig into it. But, I don't really recall anyone decoding Formula One like this before, using Gematria, to this extent anyway. And I just wonder, is it going to be too late soon? It's just wild stuff. So just glancing through, seeing if there's anything else worth sharing. I suppose there is an interesting pie riddle for this weekend. Remember, on the date September 11th, 2001, we got the book Life of Pi published. The name Lando Norris and the name Lando both summed to 314. Notice how Lando Norris also has this 1116 gematria using the trigonal method. And this is, one of those interesting numbers because it's like the date 9/11/01 upside down. The CEO of McLaren will be 314 days after his birthday for this race. Lando was born 31 weeks and 4 days after his teammate's birthday. Remember, his teammate, born on the same day as actor Lando Calrissian. And their birthdays, that falls 3 months and 14 days after the president of Azerbaijan. And when that guy took office, Billy D. Williams had the 314 in his age. So what this all means, I don't know. Kind of strengthens the case for Norris, I guess. But again, maybe they both crash. Another strong connection with the film that came out in 1999 is the number of days between George Lucas and McLaren's CEO Zach Brown, born 10,039 days apart from one another. When Star Wars came out, back in the year 1999, it was first released, or premiered, I should say, on a date with 139 numerology. And then its wide release on May 19th, just 3 days later, that was the 139th day of the year. And now we get this driver, Lando Norris, born 6 months later, And his name equals 139. In reverse, Lando Norris equals 158. His teammate, Oscar Piastri, was born 158 days before the 9/11 attacks in 2001. The only driver in the grid to be born in 2001. Huh. I forgot about this one. When Star Wars The Phantom Menace came out, Zach Brown was 368 sidereal months old. That's the reverse gematria of Star Wars The Phantom Menace. This race will also be 106 years and 110 days after the original Declaration of Independence for Azerbaijan. And those are the two numbers found in the gematria of Zach Brown. Zach Brown equals 110 and 106. All right, so I think that covers most of the numerology that I really wanted to share. Again, check these blog posts out. Getting a little dizzy from all these numbers, trying to wing it here for the last hour. And again, thanks for sticking with me, folks. Even on a Friday night, it's good to see so many people are into live numerology. And again, the deep dives as we look into the wild world of sports. Now, seeing as I've gone less than an hour, I promised myself that I would do a bonus decode today before I end this video. So that's what we're going to do. Again, shout out to everybody who made it this far in the video. If you did, please do give a like, share, subscribe, whatever can help the defunct YouTube algorithm at whatever it can do. Shout out to the mods who just happened to both enter the chat at the exact same time. A little synchronicity there for the wrenches. Quick announcement too. Hopefully, seeing that Adam is watching this live, we just had a bunch of Gematrinator hoodies that we recently had printed up. And we're going to be selling those on the website soon. And it's a limited quantity for now. I'm going to see how they sell and then look at the future and maybe get some more. But I'm going to flip up on the webcam here to see if I can't show you guys what they look like real quick, because I'm pretty proud of these. This is like our first printed product. And I'm pretty psyched. So there you see the Gematrinator hoodie. I'm not wearing it because it's still a little bit warm where I am up here in Milwaukee today. But I'm actually pretty pumped about these hoodies. I'm not lying. Look at that. I got a Gematria undergarment too. Remember this? So double duty today on the clothes. But yeah, I mean, I'm not even lying when I say that this is like my new favorite hoodie. The lining inside, I've never had anything like this. So it's really warm, really snug. I think it's worth the money. We're selling them for about $50, which is barely above cost. I was more excited about just having my own Gematrinator hoodie than making a bunch of money off of it, so hopefully we can kind of split that. So yeah, hopefully we'll get that up and running soon. All right, so let's wrap this up. And what we're going to do here is take a look at some history by the numbers. Something popped into my head. I actually had a synchronicity that led me to this decode, oddly enough. And I might as well talk about the synchronicity. So I was sitting here the other night, and I've been staying up later than normal throughout the summer. Later than I want to. And I was trying to load something on YouTube. There was a video about to play. And as the video was loading, just as I clicked the link, my internet cut out. And it's literally been years since my internet went out while I was on it, and I would have to go to the modem and unplug and replug. at least a year, if not more. The internet in this community is fabulous, if I might say so myself. I'm very fortunate, especially with my upload. It's ridiculous. And I noticed that when my internet went out, I glanced at the clock, as I am prone to do, and it read 12:26 on 9/11. And just as I looked at the clock, it flipped to 7. Did you ever notice that? You look at a clock, it flips just as you look at it. Well, it did not do it just now for me, but this is what happened. And I thought, that's funny, right? 12:26 and 9/11. Well, 2/26, the date of the 9/11. What am I saying? I've said these things so many times, I'm starting to conflate the two. 9/11 were not the Twin Towers. The Twin Towers themselves were bombed on 2/26. And then destroyed on 9/11. And then that same day, Life of Pi was published. And of course, 227, we all know, is a number that's connected to pi. In fact, in the film Life of Pi, he survives for 227 days. Anyway, so the video finally loads once my internet comes back, and I realize that, no, this isn't the outage. You know, I don't have to go down and figure out how to open all that food I have in the basement. Nothing like that. I just happily get back online and the world is normal. In the video that loads, there was a commentator for the race, and he sounded a lot like Tom Mees. Now, my younger viewers probably never heard of this guy, but this is one of the original ESPN SportsCenter anchors. And, you know, I was thinking about this today, and it's like, this was the first guy I ever remember who died, and I heard about it on the news, and just thought, what the actual fuck? Like, what really fucking happened? I mean, I was only 11 at the time. But even then, I'm like, how does this happen, right? The story is this guy drowned in his neighbor's pool. And originally, police said he went after his daughter to save her, and then they changed their story and said the daughter was never in the pool, and nobody knows how he got in his neighbor's pool. And I'm like, what the hell? Why would a guy who can't swim drown in his neighbor's pool? I just thought, man, if this happened to someone I knew of, like, that's pretty suspicious. What's he doing on the guy's pool without him knowing? Now, granted, I didn't read deep into the story since doing this decode, so there might be other details, but not on Wikipedia. It's just a very mysterious death. So, anyway, I check into Tom Mees, and I look at the date he died, and it turns out that he died on the 227th day of the year, on the very first day of Brown lunation number 911. See that? 9/11. So my freaking internet goes out at 12:27 on 9/11. And then the video loads, and the voice reminds me of this guy who died on the 227th day, on the first day of lunation 9/11. Oh, is the computer talking to you, Derek? Oh. Well, maybe. You don't know it's not. I don't know it isn't. I don't know it is either, but these type of things, you know, make me feel like there's something powerful going on in our personal, private lives as well as the greater consciousness. I think that's the side of this study that brings peace to people through all of this. You know, that birth tragedy, whatever it is you're going through, all these things happen by the numbers, which speaks to a greater organization that is definitely beyond our comprehension, but is still visible to the human eye. So, with all of that said, let's get into this decode about Tom Mees and his unfortunate early demise at the young age of 46. Tom Mees died in his hometown of Southington, Connecticut, in his own neighborhood. Southington, Connecticut was originally incorporated on the date February 15th, which is the 46th day on the calendar. When Tom Mees was born, October 13th of 1949, this was a date with a life lesson number of 46. Remember, a number connected to sacrifice through Pythagorean gematria. In this post, we'll talk about how it's connected to two major secret societies. First of all, Freemasonry, whose lineage traces back to 1717, and the Jesuit order, which goes all the way back to the 16th century. Freemasonry at the Premier Grand Lodge was originally established on another date with a life lesson number of 46. The Jesuit order founding date, also with a life lesson number of 46. When Tom Mees died at age 46, it was exactly 46 weeks after the Jesuits' anniversary. So let's talk about the moon, because once again, Mees died on the very first day of Brown Lunation 911. And here this brings us to a cipher called Satanic Gematria, one of the craftiest methods, and a cipher where Satanic Gematria even sums to 666. It's incredible, isn't it? Well, Tom Mees died in the year 1996, which ends with these digits 996, a little bit of a 666 connection, perhaps. But in this satanic method, the phrase ritual human sacrifice, rather appropriately, equals 911. Tom Mees was born on a date with primary numerology, or standard as I actually call it, of 119, 10 plus 13 plus 96. I misspoke twice. That was actually his next birthday. But look at how this number was coded into his life. He was a sportscaster, born in Springfield, graduated from Delaware, dead in Southington, Connecticut, and buried in New Jersey. And here we see the digits 1019, 119, 1016, 116, and again, 119. The name Tom Mees is a super match in all four ciphers with the moon, 90, 99, 27, and 36. In Sumerian, Tom Mees and the moon both equal 540. Well, his employer, ESPN, who he worked with since the company's debut on its flagship show SportsCenter, which premiered on the same day ESPN was founded. Both ESPN and the city of Southington have double gematria of 54. And when Tom Mees died, it was exactly 5 years, 4 weeks before the 9/11 attacks in 2001. He was an anchor on the show SportsCenter, which equals 152. This found in the date of incorporation for Southington, the 15th of February, 1502. The town was incorporated during Brown Lunation -1780. Brown Lunations count backwards as well. So while they began in the early 20s, if you go backwards, you'll notice they increase in the opposite direction with negative numbers. So even back in the year 1779, we had -1780 for the Brown Lunation. With capital letters, the name Tom Mees equals 178. These were the same digits in his age when he died, by the way. From his birthday to his death, 17,108 days. Both the moon and moon have gematria of 178. But the links to Freemasonry numerically are very strong here. Tom died on the date leaving 139 days in the year. This is the ordinal gematria of the word Freemasonry, 139. An organization which again was founded in the year 1717. When Tom Mees died, he was 17,107 days old without the end date. Back in the year 1947, the town of Southington was consolidated, along with its borough, together with its town, creating a larger area. Tom Mees died on a date with a life lesson number of 47. Both sportscaster and sports have the 47 connection in Gematria. This is a number very important to Freemasonry, whose compass, which is used to draw the circle, which equals 47, is set to 47 degrees. Measuring from his 47th birthday back to the date he died was 8 weeks and 4 days. In fact, Tom was born 84,848 days after Masonry was founded. And 84 is the number that Masonry shares with Jesuit, the Jesuit order, and the Jesuits. So going back to this date of consolidation for Southington, Connecticut, this was a town consolidated on a date with standard numerology of 79. Tom Mees found dead on the date, leaving 79 days in the year, matching sportscaster in reverse. Well, 7/9, or the 7th of September, is the date that ESPN was first launched in the year 79. Of course, in ordinal, the word murder has that special 79, while in reverse, death equals 97. In reverse reduction, Society of Jesus equals 79, while the Society of Jesus equals 91. Well, the Jesuits were formed on a date with 91 numerology. This, the same birth numerology as Tom Mees, 10 plus 13 plus 19 plus 49. Now, a lot of people recognize the homicide code as, what did I say, homicide code? Homicide code as 187. The founder of ESPN, Bill Rasmussen, has this 187 gematria. Society of Jesus, remember Brotherhood of Death, also both with that 187. From Southington's consolidation date to the death of Tom Mees was 18,007 days. He also died 6,187 days after the founding of ESPN, a double 187 alignment. In reduction, ancient accepted Scottish rite of Freemasonry yields the 187. In reverse, the Society gives us the 227. And yes, for the record, this is the official name of the Scottish Rite. Remember, the "and" is optional. Forget exactly where it says this. But ancient accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. In reverse, it also sums to 227. And Tom Mees died on the 227th day of a leap year, reminding us of how the Jesuits were formed following a meeting on the 227th day of the year, which was August 15th in a non-leap year. The Society of Jesus in Latin ordinal sums to 227. The Society of Jesus also shares 224 gematria with Sports Center. Tom Mees, born 2 years and 24 weeks after Southington was consolidated. Lastly, we'll leave you with this. Tom Mees drowned in a pool of water, as one typically drowns in. Notice how he was born on October 13th, or 1013, and we all know how the 113 is a number of dishonesty. Tom Mees in the broadcasting business, often with a green screen, both 113 ordinal. Southington, Connecticut is a town founded on a 113 date. And then Tom Mees died from drowning in the town. Drowning equals 1130. Tom Mees was born 62,331 days after the original founding of Southington, Connecticut. He was born during Brown Lunation 331. That's the 67th prime number, and 67 the gematria of water in ordinal, Southington, Connecticut in reverse reduction. In Latin, water sums to 1,086. Well, if you don't include the end date, the 186 is found when measuring from Southington to Tom Mees' death, also from the launch of ESPN. The phrase accidental drowning, 1860. Then they buried him in East Brunswick, which equals 186. And don't forget the 186 is a number connected to 9/11. The two planes that struck the Twin Towers, Flights 175 and Flight 11, add up to 186. And the 186th prime number is 1109. There it is. So it all circles back to the fact that he was found dead on the first day of Brown Lunation 9/11. A man who was hoping to celebrate his next birthday on a 119 date, but was tragically cut short. All right, everyone. Well, I think that's enough numbers for me on a weekend night. Hope everyone does enjoy their weekend. Again, I had to get this video out early because I'm going to be a little bit busy myself, but hope I was able to make some sense of what's going on in the world of sports and news and the synchronicity that exists among all of them. Because it's undeniable, and you don't have to win with all of your picks to realize that something very fascinating is going on, and it's happening on a scale that I'm not even sure all of the participants are aware of. Again, this stuff just seems to come together a little bit too well. So with that, peace, love, God bless. Talk to y'all next time. See ya.